Drew?
Good morning. I'm feeling very global this morning, Matty. So glad to be joining you and the listeners here on SEN.
Yes, get your global on. Las Vegas locked in. So Warriors v Warrington Wolves, as in Wigan Warriors. Then we've got Raiders v New Zealand Warriors. Then the Gillaroos v the England women's team. And then the Panthers v Sharks, the festival of footy. What's your first reaction to the quadruple header?
My first reaction was too much football can sometimes be enough, to steal a line from Roy and HG. I'm a little bit worried about it, Matty. I've got to say, I don't want to be a Debbie Downer, but I am just a little concerned that that is going to be too much football in one day, in one sitting at Allegiant Stadium. I've already heard from some people that it's going to be just too cost prohibitive to go, simply for the fact that if you're going to go, you're going to be locked in there for 4 hours. I don't think there's any pass outs in from Allegiant Stadium, and having been there more than a few times, it's there's not much around there anyway. So I'm a little bit concerned about crowd and whether they're going to be able to fill it out. I know that they're going to have some of those UK supporters coming over for Warrington and Wigan. But again, I was just with people actually last night who went to Vegas who just said it cost them an absolute bomb to go early this year. And while they had a great time, they're just the concern that I've got is that 4 games is a little bit of overkill. What do you think?
It seems like it. I see what they're trying to do, Webby. I didn't go this year, and I've only heard, all of the reaction from those that went both professionally and personally as well. Most of the people that went, as you well know, loved it. They had a great time, and
Mm.
it seemed to have, a real kick along to start the season. And I see what they're trying to do with Wigan v Warrington, with the Gillaroos v the English women's team. So we've got the Lionesses. So we've got ourselves another marketplace to tap into, bringing eyeballs and people in from the UK. And then we've got the Warriors in the mix as well. So we've also got the New Zealand factor coming in. So I see them spreading it out, but maybe they are spreading it a bit thin. Is that your biggest concern?
That's exactly what my concern is. I think 4 matches is too much. And if anyone who went to those games earlier this year will tell you that $30 a beer that doesn't get you many beers, depending on how deep your pockets are. As I said, I spoke about this on Morning Glory on Friday. I'm worried about the women's fixture between the Gillaroos and the England national team. I think there's a real disparity there in terms of talent and ability, and I think the women's game in England is nowhere near as advanced as it is in Australia. I think that'll be a big blowout. I don't know why they wouldn't look at an NRL fixture or even an Origin, between New South Wales and Queensland in that. If we're going to showcase the women's game to an American market, then I would have thought that might have been you'd want a strong fixture. Again, I'm worried about the games just being too much football
All
and
right.
people being staying that inside Allegiant Stadium for 4 matches. It's a long day. It's a long, expensive day, and just how many are prepared to shell out that money? Given our exchange rate, given how inflation is in the US, it's going to be a big ask.
I'm going to throw that out to our listeners 0457 736 736 this morning, or 1300 01 1170 on the open line. Give us your thoughts when you see the Las Vegas Festival quadruple header and you think about, okay, if I was going to go, because as you mentioned, Webby, it's more than 4 hours. So local time, the first game, Wigan v Warrington, would start at 1:30. This is Las Vegas time, 1:30 in the afternoon. Then the Raiders-Warriors match starts at 4 o'clock. Then the Test match starts at 6 o'clock. And then the Panthers v Sharks starts at 8:30. So let's say that you're a Wigan or Warrington fan, but you want to stick around all the way and see the Panthers-Sharks. And if your info is correct that there's no pass-outs, you're there from a kickoff. So let's add some time around that. A kickoff at 1:30 in the afternoon all the way to a kickoff at 8:30 at night. That's a long
Yeah,
time in there.
it's a long day. It's a long day.
Mm.
Yeah, as I said, look, I've had plenty. I've had a few emails from people in the States saying that they won't be going because I just think it's going to be cost prohibitive. So I hope, hopefully it's wrong. Hopefully it'll be it'll be an amazing success like it was earlier this year. As I said again last Friday on Morning Glory, when I remember walking out of the stadium there earlier this year, going, well, they'll sell this out next year, because there was so much. It had been such an outrageous success and been such a great event. I just think they might have bitten off a little bit too much.
All right. Is it too big, too soon? Let us know this morning as the Las Vegas Festival grabs some headlines also this morning. Webby, Jason Riles locked in. So there was lots of jockeying, lots of positioning. It looked as though it came down to 3 in the end between Jason, Josh Hannay and Dean Young. Trent Barrett, of course, the interim coach, but they've locked in Jason Riles. So comes with the pedigree we know, but will be untried as a brand new head coach. Clint Gutherson's had his say. When I say to you, Jason Riles, head coach, Parramatta Eels, what do you see in the Eels' future?
Oh, I think it's the right move. I would have been happy with Josh Hannay too. I tell you what, though, it does show you until they make the announcement, until the press release drops, no one should be speculating on who's getting what job, because there's so much mail that Josh Hannay was about to be appointed. I refused to declare it because I just simply did not know, and I'm not entirely sure how much Parramatta knew last week as well, whether they had made up their mind completely on whether Jason Riles is the right man for the job. Look, he's been the man waiting in the wings for the last 4 years, really, as the next big assistant coach to take over a club, apart from alongside Cameron Ciraldo. They've sort of been the two, and Andrew Webster at the Warriors, obviously. But Rilesy's been primed for this for some time. He's been at the Storm, the Roosters, the Storm. Spent time with Eddie Jones when he was the England coach. Thankfully, not when he was the Wallabies coach. And it might be just the right move for Parramatta. I think it's very interesting that players like Clint Gutherson and others have said that they expect an overhaul of the roster. I have to say I've been quite bemused about the talk, that the front office is to blame for why Parramatta has nosedived since that grand final in 2022. I'd like to think the players and the coaching staff might have something to do with it. Blaming the front office for how things are performing on the field, I think, is a little bit of a cop out, to be perfectly honest. So I think Jason Riles has got a big job ahead of him, but it's Parramatta. They are an absolute giant of the game, and how he's going to go as a rookie coach, handling that expectation, and particularly a very loud and frustrated supporter base is going to be the big question. But I think Rilesy deserves his chance, and he'll go well.
You've seen plenty of coaches come into the system, plenty of assistant coaches step up to the job. In fact, what we're seeing a lot now is head coaches who lose their job go back to assistant coach and then come back again. What do you reckon? And I'm asking you almost to tap into the psychology of what you've seen over the years. What do you reckon is the major change that you see from an assistant coach to a head coach? Because all the responsibility now falls at the head coach's feet. So Jason Riles is in for a very different 2025 than he has been over the last couple of years.
I've used this saying a couple of times, and it's a good one. Warren Ryan used it quite a bit. Until your name's in the program as the head coach, you don't know what to expect. It's completely different. But I think Rilesy's a little bit different. Rilesy's been in this role as an assistant coach for quite some time, so I don't think it's going to be a huge elevation. I think the thing that you talk to plenty of assistant coaches who have stepped into the head coaching job, and I'll tell you the main thing's time. Like just all the other commitments, corporate wise and media wise, and all that outside noise. That's a lot of that takes up a lot of time from the actual coaching. So how a coach manages all that outside stuff is probably the biggest factor in terms of them trying to succeed, because it's pretty brutal. Like, just talk to Cameron Ciraldo about like how dark has it been for Canterbury in the last couple of years, and he's finally starting to turn the corner this season. Patience from your superiors has got to be the biggest factor. And I think there's some stability there at Parramatta. As much as people want to try and death ride the front office of that club, I'm not entirely confident with the way that they handle everything, particularly their pursuit of Wayne Bennett. But they're a stable club compared to what they were, 2016 and the salary cap scandal. So let's give both Parramatta and Jason Ryles the benefit of the doubt.
But expectations are there, as you said, mate. This is a massive club that's not used to being where it is at the moment. So what's the expectation? I mean, is it a top 8 or bust kind of scenario? I mean, they're going to invest long term in Jason Ryles, obviously, and they're going to give him some time, but time will be ticking as soon as he takes on officially that role, as soon as, like you say, his name's in the program. So what's the expectation in 2025? Is it get back in to the top half?
It'd have to be close to it, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Like, well, the eight's got to be. The eight's got to be. I don't think they're that bad roster wise. I can't. I'm sort of a little bit surprised by the talk that they've got a rubbish roster. Have they? I mean,
No.
they've got Dylan Brand, who's a Kiwi rep. They've got Mitchell Moses, who's the New South Wales halfback.
Yeah.
Clint Gutherson, who's a representative fullback who might have to move to centre, but still very good. They've got Zach Lomax, the best player of the game, coming there next year. They've got a quality. They've got two quality props in Regan Campbell-Gillard and Junior Paulo. Like, I mean, it's Sean Lane. He was one of the best back rowers in the comp just two years ago. Ryan Madison. Like, they're not. I don't think they're legless, and I think by blaming their roster is a little bit of a Gia. To be honest, I think they're quite solid. So I know we'll see. Time will tell, won't we? But if you're not going into if you're not going into next year expecting to poke your head into the top 8 at the end of the year, then you shouldn't be in it.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that roster in particular is why it made the job such a coveted one. And Jason Ryles has won that battle, and now the big job begins of becoming the head coach. So too big, too soon for Allegiant Stadium, the Las Vegas quadruple header, the Festival of Four, which will be on Sunday, the 2nd of March. By the way, those times, just in case you're wondering, in Australian time. So here in Sydney, the first game will start at 8:30 in the morning. The second game, which is the Raiders against the Warriors at 11 o'clock. Then the test match, the women's test match at 1 p.m. and the fourth and final match, Panthers v Sharks at 3:30 p.m. So you've got some time. Don't think you have not been warned in between now and the 2nd of March, the start of 2025. 0457 736 736. It's Wednesdays with Webby. We've got a whole lot to talk about this morning. It's just gone 17 past 9. With Webby, the chief sports writer at the Sydney Morning Herald. Andrew Webster is on the line. Sean is on our open line. G'day, Sean. Webby's listening in.
Yeah. G'day, guys. How are you, Webby?
Hey, Sean. What's happening?
Mate, not much, mate. This whole trip to Vegas with the NRL, like, I understand they're going to push the game in different directions, but I don't think every year is the right way to go about it. Like, the cost is extreme. Like, to go and watch, to fly there, stay there for a week, whatever the case may be, plus the day out to go to watch it in the stadium, mate, you're up for tens of thousands of dollars. It's just, it's mind-boggling what they want people to try and do.
Yeah, look, I've got a bit of a bad line there, but I think you just said that you think that the cost is was too much for people to go over, and if that's the case, then I agree. There's plenty of people I know who received a bit of a surprise when they looked at their bank statement when they got back from Vegas this year. Like, you're right. It is hard for people. It is hard for the rugby league masses to go year on year to Vegas. God, I had my expenses paid by my company, so it was, and I will declare partly by the NRL in terms of the flight. And it cost me a stack. I couldn't believe how much things cost over there, both food, alcohol. Those blackjack tables, they are quite expensive, I've noticed as well. The card machines, they weren't that favourable. But it's a very expensive trip for your standard rugby league supporter to go. So that's why I talk about, like, I just don't know how people can afford to be in that stadium for all day, basically, given the prices in American football stadiums. It's going to be pretty hard for people to pay that. So I think they just want the momentum. Remember, the whole reason why the game is going through this exercise is to try and get a fingernail into in the American sporting market and broadcast market and wagering market, and we still haven't had any detail from the NRL around any of that at all. We had great ratings here in Australia, but rugby league's not trying to crack this market here. They've got a fair hold of it already. So yeah, it's going to be it's going to be interesting to see how things happen year two.
Yeah, a good call, Sean. Thank you for that, because there really are a couple of different ways to look at this. I mean, the overall and the overriding reason is exactly like you said, Webby. It's about betting and broadcasting, right? That's the outcome that the game's trying to get. Now, in terms of how much it costs the game to do, they're getting a big kickback from, it's Las Vegas tourism, isn't it? Nevada state tourism. So they're getting a good feed in from the tourism over there. So in terms of the dollars for the game, they're looking at how much they can get long term, breaking into the betting market, getting more share on broadcasting perhaps, and then also getting funding to do this. But for Sean and for the average Joe who wants to go over, it's a lot of money. It's a heck of a lot of money. Like, mate, if I'm not going next year for work, I'm not going. I just can't justify turning around and say I can spend thousands of dollars to do this, go and watch 4 games of footy and turn around and come back. It's just nothing that I can do. But there's a bigger player here. The big question, I reckon, Webby, is where does the tipping point come in? Where does it get too expensive for the game itself to keep running this, to try and keep propping it up and keep going to try and get that money back for betting and broadcasting, which won't come for ages?
I don't think the money from the Nevada Tourist Commission is that much either. I don't think it's a huge amount. They've been very supportive in terms of logistics, but it's I don't think they're throwing truckloads of money at the NRL to hold their event in Las Vegas. They like content in that city, but that city's got a lot of content that then it doesn't necessarily have to rely on rugby league to fill the hotels there during that time of the year. As I've said all along, we're not going to know whether the Vegas experiment is a success or not, maybe until around year 3, 4 maybe, and we see just whether it's got any traction on American TV, and therefore in terms of wagering. I went and met one of the casino owners over there when I was there this year. Yeah, it was a fascinating chat about whether it can work or not. And he said to me, it's going to take some time. Like, you just can't make a. I love how people have dismissed it already. The typical rugby league haters in certain sections of the media who want to just bag it and say, look, it's all been a waste of money. We're not going to know till year 3 or 4. But that said, I know the clubs and other stakeholders in the game, particularly in country regions, will be wondering just where the economic benefit is for rugby league by pursuing this ultimate boys' weekend over in Vegas.
Andrew, I have a question for you. Are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
What happens with the World Club Challenge?
Well, don't ask me that. I don't know.
Let's throw this out to our listeners, because they may know. I mean, let's try and figure this out here. This year, I should say, the World Club Challenge was on the 24th of February, right?
Yeah.
And Wigan played Penrith. Now, Wigan and Penrith didn't feature in the Vegas round. 2025, both Wigan and Penrith will be in Las Vegas. All things being equal, the World Club Challenge would be on there or thereabouts the same weekend. It's a 28-day February next year. So that'd be a week difference between the World Club Challenge, if we kept it at the same date, and Vegas. And the other point of difference is we'd have 2 teams that are most likely to be in the World Club Challenge. What happens there?
Well, apparently they're going to play it on the Sunday morning back at Allegiant Stadium. No, they're not. I'll be talking to Abdo in a couple of hours, so I'll check in and let you know tomorrow. How's that sound?
Okay. Yep. Let us know. That's a good one.
Instead of speculating, let me actually do some reporting and find out. But it's a very valid point. What happens to the World Club Challenge? Do they scrap it next year, or where do they play it? Or do they play it a month earlier? Do they play it? It's a reasonable question.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, maybe it's been brought up earlier, and maybe somebody's got the answer to it. Happy if there's already an answer. But Wigan and Penrith playing on that Las Vegas Festival weekend, you've got to say that they'd be favourites at the moment to both feature, and Warrington are going to be there as well. So anyway, let's throw that one out there on the World Club Challenge as well. 0457 736 736.